Okay, in this video, we're going to have a look at the Autosum feature. So what I have here is, let's say we've got a florist selling flowers, and these are the different types of products that they sell, and that's the sales per month. So for example, for carnations, they've sold 58,049 Rand in January, 46,519 in Feb, and so forth, right? So basically, it's effectively the sales for each product for each individual month. Now, if I wanted to work out the sum of January sales, right? So across all the products, what is the total sales for January? The way I could do that is I could type in equals, right? And I use the sum formula. Type in the open bracket, and then I could literally click on the first cell that I want to sum up, and I just drag across right until the last one, and I can put the closing bracket, or I could just hit the enter key. And you can see that when I hit the enter key, it put the closing bracket in for me, and that basically gives us the sum of all the products for January, right? So that's the full sales for January. So that's the one way of doing it. Now, what I wanted to point out is that just remember this, what's in the brackets here, right? What we're summing up, B4 to B11, as you can see with the blue outline. So the moment I click on just press the escape key, the moment I click here to edit the formula, or if I press the F2 key to edit the formula, where we can start editing it if we wanted to, the moment I do that, it'll actually show me the range in a blue outline. So you can see the range of cells that's being referred to. You can see the color is blue here, and it shows you the same blue color over there. So if I, for example, let's say I was summing up January, February, and March, it's just something to note. So if I said equals to the sum of that, and I'm using my shift key, holding my shift key in, and pressing the up arrow to select, plus, right, so I'm now adding up multiple sum ranges. Now you wouldn't normally typically do this, but I just wanted to show you, and I'm using the shift key, close the bracket, put a plus in again, type in the word sum, open the bracket, use my arrow keys to find the range, and then holding the shift key in again, pressing the up arrows to highlight it. Then I then let go of the shift key and I press the closing bracket. So you can now see that each range, the blue matches there, the sort of red matches there, and the sort of purple matches there. So you can actually see from the color of it highlighted when it's in the edit mode, you can see which part of the formula it relates to. Just something to be aware of. You probably know this already, but just in case you did, that's something useful to know. All right, so if I hit enter, that basically means that the sales for all 3 months would equal to this one. Okay, so what I wanted to now point out, let's actually just delete this formulas for a moment that we put in. So I want to show you a quick way, instead of having to type out a formula, if you go into the formulas tab over here, there's an auto sum function. So if I select this particular cell here, which is a blank cell, and I click on this auto sum, it'll immediately highlight what I need. It'll sum everything above it up, and it'll show it to me this way. And all I need to do is hit the enter key, and it'll basically be done. So that's the auto sum in a nutshell. If I wanted a sum, let's say I wanted to know what is January, February, March, the sales for carnations across the 3 months, I click on this here, and instead of typing in the formula, if I press the auto sum, immediately you can see it'll pick up. It notices that there's no data above, so it'll go towards the left and until it actually reaches some text. So it knows that it can't add beyond January. The system knows that, and therefore it'll basically give you a suggested solution or suggested range. And if you're happy with it, you can basically simply hit enter. Now note that when you're typing in these formulas, you can even manually type in the range, right? So here, for example, remember I said equals sum, right? And then I went with my arrow key and using the shift earlier on to highlight, but I could even manually type it in, even though this is more work. So if I typed in C4, see, as I type in a particular cell, it highlights that cell. I put in the colon, I press a colon because that's how we show a range, and then I say, okay, let's do it to C11, right? And then immediately I can put the close and enter. So you can manually type in ranges, and obviously, as by now I'm sure you realized, a range can also go across multiple rows and columns. So if I wanted to sum everything up and I wanted to type in the range, I could go sum, and I could say from B4. Let's say I typed in B3 by mistake, so I could immediately see, oh, I'm 1 row off, so I could put a backspace, put in the 4, and now you can see I'm in the right area. I put a colon, and then I can go to D11, right? And so you can see that obviously when you're typing in a range, the first part of the range, the B4 will be the top left of it, and then there's a colon, and then the second cell is basically the one that makes up the bottom part of the range. Okay, so this is fairly basic, and you may probably have known this already. Say one more thing is with the sum formula, I could even just type in sum B4, which would only sum up one cell. As you can see, it's exactly the same because you're not summing up multiple cells. But where you have to enter a range, it is also possible to just enter in a single cell. And one more thing I want to show you, if I had to say from B4 to B4, that also works. So it's basically a single range. So two more things I want to cover with relation to the Autosum is that when we're doing an Autosum, it says Autosum under the, remember it's under the Formulas tab, and it says Autosum. But if I click on this drop-down option over here, I don't have to only use the sum feature. I could, for example, say what is the average sales per product in January and just select the average. And you can see it now brings the average function, and I could hit enter, and I can see that the average sales per product was 45,454 Rand. And I could also use other features such as a count, how many numbers are there. So that's the count function. So it'll tell me how many different numbers. So there's 8 different products. So that's why the count is actually telling me it's 8. I could also say what is the maximum sales of any of these products. And it'll tell me it's 58,049 Rand, which is the carnations is the maximum. So it gives you the maximum number in the range. And similarly, the opposite of that is the minimum. And it gives you the minimum range, number in the range, which is, you can see under daffodils, that's the 3577, the minimum. And there's also more functions. So it's not just limited to these ones. You could also go in and find other functions. And so let me just actually click on cancel. And if we go Autosum and we say more functions, you can see all the different functions that you can basically use with regards to it. And this is only the most recently used, so you can actually go across all functions, and there's literally, you know, hundreds of these functions available in Excel. What you're seeing here is just the most commonly used ones, so they're obviously easily accessible. So that's the one thing that you should note about the Autosum. When you're doing a standard Autosum, the other very important thing to note is the keyboard shortcut. So when I hover over this Autosum over here, you can see it says Alt plus equals. So if you're in a cell like this and you just keep your Alt key in and you press the equals to sign on your keyboard, it'll immediately do an Autosum. You don't have to go in and click on the Autosum button in the ribbon. Similarly, if I was here and I put in Alt and equals to, immediately it'll bring it up and I can just hit enter. So that's just a nice time-saving technique. It's something that you probably will use a lot in Excel, where you want to add in a sum feature, a sum function at the bottom of a series of numbers, or whether it's across a row, and the Alt equals to will save you quite a bit of time.